Welcome to Epic Begins with One Step Forward, the podcast that reveals how to plan, achieve, and enjoy the journey of creating epic results in your life, business, health, and relationships. Here's your host, best-selling author and motivational speaker, Zander Sprague.
Welcome, Epic people, to another exciting episode of Epic Begins with One Step Forward. I'm your host, Zander Sprague, and today I have Bryan Blackmon with me. Bryan, thank you so much for being here. Tell us who you are and what you do.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. My name is Bryan Blackmon, and I do TikTok and many other things. I have a degree in audio and video production, so I do a lot of concert setting up, lighting, audio, video, and in the LA area. But mainly my full-time gig has become social media of all things.
Cool. Now I know that you have a rather epic story here, Bryan, and
Yes, sir.
I would love to dive into that. Tell us a little bit about your background, about the journey that you've been on.
I come from Fort Worth, Texas. Started drinking and drugging around the age of 15 pretty heavily. That continued throughout my entire teenage, young adult, and up until, I don't know, a little over 2 years ago now. That's just been my life. That's just what I've done. That's who I've known myself to be, is just an alcoholic drug addict,
Yeah.
chasing that to make me feel whole, to make me feel like I was somebody in this world. And it's just kind of been all that I've known since I was, really young, like I said. And yeah, I moved to California on a dream, and things got even more crazy and wild and disturbing in some parts. And yeah, now I've got 886 days sober, a little over 2 years and 4 months sober today. And so living my best life, man.
Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
I can't say I know it's challenging, because I don't. I wouldn't say that, but I would say, what I know of addiction and recovery and stuff is it is one day at a time, and it's challenging. And like anything, some days are easier than others,
Yes.
With my degree in mental health, I also know that human beings are creatures of habit. And I have to imagine that after so many years of doing that, it's sort of a pattern. Hey, I'm having a stressful day. I'll have a drink.
Right.
I'll take some drugs or whatever. And patterns are hard, especially when they're so long established, right? Like, how do I do something new? So kudos to you for,
Thank you.
your path. For you, what was it that started, the drinking and drugging and stuff? And what were was it like and I'll put in air quotes, classic, sort of, you started with marijuana and then it got, that wasn't doing it, so you went to other drugs. What was your alcohol of choice, or was it anything that's fermented is good?
Yeah, that's more like it. Yeah, you said something a minute ago that, I had a stressful day, or maybe things just didn't go as I wanted it to, let's say, and that would be a reason to drink. Mine was a lot easier than that. Mine was just waking up.
Okay.
I didn't have to have a bad day. I didn't have to have a good day.
Right.
It's what I fed myself from the moment that I got up.
Got it.
It started when I was 13. I'd moved to my aunt and uncle's house because I was so out of control. My parents had just gotten a divorce. They sent me to live with my aunt and uncle to try to see if that would help. And I had a beer at a party at 13 that they were throwing with one of my neighbors. And I just felt this warm, peaceful feeling just rush over my body. I've always struggled with emotions. I feel other people's emotions. I feel this world intensely, and the vibrations and the frequencies of it. Back then, I mean, as a young kid, I didn't understand what that meant, or what was happening on the outside of me that was hurting the inside of me or triggering the inside of me. When I had that first drink, I felt like I could breathe. I felt peaceful.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't understand what that meant, but it was interesting. It like put a smile on my face.
Yeah.
I do remember that very distinctly. And then time went on, and it was in high school when I smoked weed for the first time. And, then at high school parties, and the beer came in, and the alcohol came in, the liquor, and
Yeah.
I just became a garbage disposal. It didn't, I liked it all,
Yeah.
and to bring that seriousness of how I liked it all, it led to the cocaine, it led to the hallucinogenics, the acid, the mushrooms. And at a party one night when I was in the 10th grade, a buddy of mine brought me into the bathroom, and there was a line of Coke on the back of the toilet, and a line of this brown powder. And I asked what that was, and he said it was heroin. You got to do them both with each other. It's the best feeling ever. Most people, I think, would have been like, I don't know if I'm ready to, especially in the 10th grade.
Yeah, no doubt.
Going into the 11th grade.
Yeah.
And there was no question for me. I just was like, oh, okay. And I did it, and I thought I was going to die, and then I just kept doing it. And I thought I was going to die every time I did it, and I just kept doing it. That was the extent of how my internal body operated when it came to the drugs and alcohol. I like to push that button and see how far I could take it.
Yeah. And, I've read and heard this, that it's chasing the dragon. Like you like
Sure.
that first time you have heroin or some kind of an opiate, you're like, oh my God, that high is great. And then you're sort of chasing to try and get that high, but you never quite get that same feel.
Right.
Is that correct? I mean, would you say
For me,
that?
it was. Absolutely. Absolutely. It got to the point where, it was fun. I enjoyed it. It was a lifestyle. I grew up, playing guitar in local bands, and I come from a musically inclined family. So the whole rock star, that's all I ever wanted to do
Yeah.
was live the rock star life.
Yeah.
And I fulfilled that. in the sex,
Sounds like you did. I mean, at least the
sex,
drinking and drugging part of it,
the
Bryan.
sex, drugs, and rock and roll, man. I achieved that. There's no doubt about it. The lifestyle of it.
Absolutely.
And it, it got to where it no longer fed me this peace. Now it felt like I was back to square one of this disturbance internally.
Yeah.
And without that in my body, I couldn't function. And then it got to the point where, as I just had to have that in me, then it started creating a different kind of disturbance. And that was an ugly, wretched, dark feeling. But I was so far in, getting out wasn't really an option. And in a lot of ways, I never wanted to get out. I never wanted to stop doing drugs or drinking. I would get sober for my family to get out of probation, parole, prisons, jails, and institutions, just to try to get my way with things, but never did I want to.
Right.
Ever.
Well, clearly there was some kind of a moment over 800 days ago where perhaps you said, I can't do this anymore.
Right.
So what was that rock bottom? What was that? How did you get there? Because I mean, I can imagine after all those years, that's honestly all you knew.
Right. I can't say that I know what happened, other than it was a power greater than myself that tapped me not only on my heart, but in every cell of my body.
Mhm.
I was brushing my teeth 886 or 87, one of the two days ago. I was brushing my teeth, and I looked in the mirror, man, and the light that was inside me was no longer shining. It hadn't shined in many, many years.
Yeah.
I had lost that. It was pretty dim and grim in every aspect. And I was brushing my teeth, man, and I just saw this shell of a human. And what happened was, every voice, every spirit, the angel, the devil, the own conscious and subconscious mind that I know of myself, weren't fighting each other. It wasn't saying this and saying that and fighting this one, fighting that voice and fighting the angel and the devil. It was everything just came together in
Yeah.
one spirit. And all I heard was the words, "You are worth it." And it rang throughout my entire spirit. And at that moment, I decided I'd had enough. And that's what it took, man. It couldn't have been for my family. It could not have been for any other reason. It finally landed in me and me wanting to make that change.
Absolutely. And look, I mean, what I know doing the work I do is change comes because we get to a point where we're like, this is no longer serving me, be it drinking, drugging, the way you're eating, your lack of exercise, whatever, honestly, it doesn't matter what it is. We all have, everyone has those times in their life where you're like, I know I need to, change my eating. I'm gaining weight. I don't like how I look. I don't like how I feel. But until you get to a point where you yourself decide, I need to change this. And change is hard. Absolutely. Look, change is scary. It's a basic, I talk about it all the time on the podcast that like, we like comfort. We kind of make sense. It's how we've gotten as a species, knowing the familiar makes us feel good. The unknown is scary, but that's where change happens. So you have this, I don't know, moment and you're like, hey, this is no longer working. What were some of the big challenges about going into, I mean, I'm guessing that you went to some kind of a facility to help you detoxify safely so you didn't die.
I did try that. It didn't work. I've gone through so many withdrawals and so many rehabs and so many sober living homes in my life, and trying to do this for, all the wrong reasons, that I knew personally how my body was going to react. I didn't know how hard it was going to be this time because I was doing a lot of meth and taking a lot of pills and drinking a lot. And so I knew the withdrawals were going to be extremely uncomfortable this time. I just didn't understand how much fentanyl was being used to cut methamphetamines.
Oh, God. Yeah.
I knew it was happening. I just didn't know how much of it was really going on. So I checked myself into a 30-day program. The people that were there, it was a men's facility, and they were relapsing in front of me. They were bringing drugs in. They were, doing a bunch of bad things and, trying to hide it, but they didn't hide it too well, clearly, because they're, acting.
Addicts. Yeah.
Yeah. So I saw that and I was angry. I was angry. And I checked myself out. I called my neighbor. She came and picked me up. And I locked myself in my bedroom for 30 days and kicked it myself. And it lasted about 3 months before I could finally start to even function like a normal person again. But it was so bad this time that, I prayed to just go ahead and take me. I just didn't think that I was going to pull through this one. And I definitely don't recommend doing it that way to anybody.
No. I mean,
no.
again,
Disclaimer.
Yeah.
Do not.
Aside from the fentanyl laced, methamphetamine and all of that, alcohol withdrawal alone can kill you. And unfortunately does kill people. Where I went to high school, literally right next to us was a big alcohol and drug recovery hospital. And we saw the EMS wagon going up on multiple times a week because someone had, wasn't the alcohol withdrawal was not going well and they needed to go to the hospital. So I'm happy. Are you participating in any of the Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, or anything as a way
I started in the beginning. In the beginning, I did. Once I got through the 30 days, I got up and started going to a local AA group down the street from where I'm at. And I did that every single day, every morning, sometimes at noon, and then I would go back at 5. So, many days it was 3 times a day, I would go, and that was just to get out of my own head and just, it was hard enough getting out of bed to even go anywhere. But I knew that if I stayed at home, my mental health was gonna really start getting at me. And once that happened, I knew that I had a bigger chance of relapsing or going backwards if I didn't just involve myself with something else besides me.
Absolutely. And I have to imagine that anyone going through anything, other people who get it, who understand, who may be slightly farther down the road, but to be able to talk about the things that you want to talk about, not have to explain, take 15 minutes to explain to your friend who's so well-meaning, but just hasn't experienced it, doesn't know it, to walk
Right.
in and just say to a recovering alcoholic, boy, howdy, do I want a beer? And they go, I feel you.
Right.
Yeah, I get you.
Also,
Being
what
that whole talk about, like, here's someone who gets me, so now I get to talk about this thing that is weighing on me.
I started realizing this as I got sober, like in the beginning, that one of the things that really triggered it. Well, I mean, there were several factors, but one of them was I started noticing people just walking down the street, being just out and about wherever, and I would see other men. I could tell they weren't alcoholics or drug addicts.
Yeah,
And you see the light in their eyes. There's no dark circles. They don't look like a skeleton. And I started really envying that. And when I started going to the meetings, it was like you were saying, it's a lot easier to speak to somebody that has been there. That's one thing that always just frustrated me about the rehabs that I went to, because I would say 95% of the employees at these rehabs and sober living homes that I went to were book smart, right? They had the degree on the wall, but they had never smoked crack behind a dumpster on December 24th, Christmas Eve, before you go to the midnight church service with your parents and they're waiting on you, wondering where you're at.
right.
And walking into a church cracked out,
Yeah,
looking and smelling literally like.
yeah,
And if you've never been in that position, it got really hard for me to want to confide into somebody like that. Sure, there's book smarts that you can talk to me about and maybe how emotions work and things like that. I get that. But if you've never been, that far down, it was hard for me to want to listen to you.
absolutely. Look, I variety of things I've done in my life. In the past, I've run marathons. I can describe it eloquently, but if you actually haven't done that, no matter how well I describe it, you won't actually know. You and I could talk for hours and you could describe what your addiction's like. I won't know that. I haven't lived that experience. And you're right.
Right.
I'm book smart. I can talk to you about the emotions and the triggers and stuff, but I
Yeah.
don't, because I'm like, I don't know that experience. As someone who's lost a sibling, people who haven't lost a sibling have no idea what that experience is like.
Sure.
So you're working your program. Now, I know when you reached out to me, you have the crab. I'm interested to take some minutes and talk about the crab life, I think is what you call it.
The crab crew life. Yes, sir.
Crab crew life. All right. Let's talk
So
about that, Bryan.
here's the thing. So I started doing TikTok live streaming. I went really viral with my TikTok videos, and my 85-year-old landlord who helped me, get off the streets. I was homeless, sleeping in my car here in Huntington Beach, California. She and I crossed paths. It was meant to be. We were put in each other's lives for a reason. She also helped me get sober in a sense that she let me stay under her roof when I finally told her how I was living my life and what I was going through. So I started live streaming and sharing my story. When you're live streaming, there are virtual gifts that people can send you,
Sure.
right? And one of them was a crab, and it kind of dances on your head, and its little pinching things go like this or whatever. And I'm just always making people laugh and goofy and silly. And I'd said, "Oh, you just gave me crabs right here on TikTok, right in front of everybody," and it just
Yeah.
became this thing. So I started researching, like, what is it? Why did this moment happen? I got curious as to why this moment, because then I started getting crab gifts from all over the world, right? And it just became this thing. And I was like, what is happening here? I found out that crabs are super resilient. They're adaptive.
Yes.
They figure out their way in life, right? So it started becoming the crab crew. So all the people that would show up on my lives every day, we built a community at first, and now it's become like this family. Well, then I found out that there's an actual theory called the crab mentality.
Okay.
And that's what really fascinated me, because if you put a bunch of crabs in a bucket, one will try to crawl out and the rest of them will pull it back down and not let it get out,
Right.
to my brain.
Yeah, absolutely.
All this happened, and then I find this out about the crab, and I started relating it to my own sobriety, my own new life.
Sure.
I've had to become resilient. I've had to become adaptive. I don't know what it's like to live in a sober mind, body, and spirit. I've got no idea.
Yeah. No. Well, dude, you've got many years of not knowing that. Now you're starting this whole thing, and you're like, here I am, over 25, being kind to both of us here, my friend, and just how do I don't know how to live this life. What
Right.
is this like? Kind of to quote the talking heads. How did I get here? This isn't
Right.
this isn't my car. This isn't my beautiful house. This isn't my
Exactly.
beautiful wife. So
Great analogy. But yeah, man, it just became this thing. And then the people that show up, man, have really become not only my support group, but each other's
absolutely.
support group. And so I really started putting it to pen and paper. I couldn't get this whole thing out of my head. Like, why is this happening? What is this becoming? And what can I do with it? So I started writing like the 4 pillars of the word crab, right? Resilience and adaptability is already in there, right? So I went and got Crab Crew tattooed on my knuckles.
Yeah.
I got the crab tattooed here. And so I started thinking about, well, what did I have to do first? I had to get clean. Right? I had to clear the chaos in my head and in my body, in my spirit, in my being. And then I had to learn how to be resilient. And then I started thinking about, man, I've been resilient my whole life, because you don't live in tents and drug addicts and be alone in Venice Beach, California, Santa Monica, Culver City, Woodland Hills, Canoga Park, and then to Huntington Beach and all the other things I've done in my life that I've bounced back from. No matter what darkness I got to, I was always able to kind of figure out my way. Didn't say it was a good way. Didn't say it was the most positive way. I just figured out how to bounce back in the depths of hell. And so I started thinking that I had to clean my mind, body, and spirit of the chaos. I had to learn how to become resilient, but now resilient in a different way for a better purpose, and being adaptive. We can't control the wind or the storm, but we can control our sail, right, and maneuver in a different way. And then the B for belief, right? I had to believe, I had to revert back to that day that I got sober and believing that those words were true, that I was worth it.
Yeah.
Which also lands on the bottom of it all, which is the foundation.
Absolutely.
Right? I had to
Absolutely.
believe that I was worth so much more and a much better, joyful, peaceful, gratitude living life. So I could go build a house right now on the sand right here in Huntington Beach, California, and it might work for a few days, but I'm telling you, with the waves that are here right now, it's going to knock it down. The wind blows really hard. It's going to shake it. Right. So I had to build that foundation on believing in myself and staying grateful for the little things in life. And once I found that how to love myself again and how to believe in myself and how to be grateful for the little things in life, my foundation became really strong. And then I just started building the rest of it on top.
Absolutely. In my book, I talk about it on the podcast all the time. I have what I call the 97-3 rule, which is I'm a firm believer that 97%, on average, 97% of our day is good and up to 3% is not so good. And certainly we have days where really bad things are happening, right? We have a really bad day. Absolutely. But
Life is going to hit you.
In general, there's 97% of your day is good. And you're right. It's not the big things. It's the little things that we somehow ignore. Look, Bryan, you and I woke up this morning. I didn't doubt that I would wake up. No, but I'm serious. What's
so awesome. What's so awesome about this is on my live streams and every day before my feet hit the floor, I stay grateful for 5 things. Number 1, I was given another chance at life today. I have breath. My eyes open.
Yeah.
I have a roof over my head. I've got shoes on my feet. I've got clothes on my back, and I've got food in my stomach. Those simple things. You can't go do anything successful without those simple ingredients.
Absolutely. And that's from a psychological, I'll use my book smarts here and go, yeah, that's Maslow's hierarchy. At the base is that you have basically food, shelter, and safety.
Right.
If you don't have that, you can't go up. If you don't have food, shelter, and safety, you can't help someone else. You've got to take care of yourself. And absolutely, it's that 97-3 rule. And I love to do this with my guests. So in high school, what was your least favorite subject? And please don't say all of them.
Math.
Absolutely. Look, I totally agree with you. Here's the question, Bryan. If in high school you got a 97 on a math test, how would you feel?
Ecstatic.
Exactly. You'd be
like a
telling
rock
your
star.
friends, your family. Would you be bitching about the 3 points you didn't get?
Absolutely not.
No. And so I then like to bring it back into our own life. Yes, some things don't go well. When I talk to people, I do mental health counseling. I tell my clients, and they're complaining about these little things that happen. They're important. I'm not discounting them.
Sure.
But I'm like, you're forgetting the 97 that did go right today.
Yes, exactly.
And there's somehow this human, and I'm curious about this human thing of, oh, how was your day? And people recite all the stuff that didn't go right. And I'm like, but there had to be some good. It wasn't a completely crappy day. You made it, you got up, you went to work, you came home. There's lots of good things that happened along the way. Sure, it's not to ignore it, but I also like to talk about how in baseball, you make it into the Hall of Fame because you have a batting average of over 300, right? Which is awesome. But if we apply it to our daily life, let's say today, Bryan, you're doing 9 hours of work and family and, recovery, right? If you want a Hall of Fame day, you only got to get 3 hours right. That doesn't seem like a particularly high bar.
Right.
I just need to get 3 hours of my day right, and it's a Hall of Fame day. Wow. I think
Go ahead.
No, you go.
I love this because all of that, the perspective, the way we look at life, I love to share with people, even if you're having that bad day, the first thing that somebody says, hey, how are you doing today? And you complain, you are doing nothing but affirming to this world that everything is bad for you. Even if you don't feel good, if you respond with, great, I'm wonderful, thank you for asking, how are you? It raises your vibration.
Absolutely.
It raises your vibration. Now, when you respond like that, that person that asked you that also gets a smile on their face and a warm, fuzzy feeling like, oh, man, they're doing good. I'm glad I asked.
Yeah.
What does that do? If everything is frequency and vibration and it can neither be created nor destroyed, you have an opportunity to raise your vibration or stay in the low vibration. But all of that, for me, and what I have found in my sobriety is that looking inward and creating the best place inward, mind, body, and spirit, this world, it's like the mirror effect. The world will reflect back to you good things.
Absolutely. And years ago, I read this. I was reading a book. I believe it's called like The Buddhist and the Diamond Cutter. And it was this Buddhist monk who went to work in the diamond cutting district in New York and stuff. I can't tell you much about the book, but what I do remember, it's funny how when we read books, sometimes
I know.
we take one thing away and the author goes, there was like 50 things. I'm like, I get it. I'm an author. If people take one thing away from my books, awesome. I
Exactly.
something. Anyway, well, in Buddhism, there's this concept that things are not inherently good or bad. It's how we interpret that. So
absolutely.
And our day, the sun is out here, okay? It's going to be really warm. Okay. I can view it as good or bad, but the sun being out isn't inherently good or bad in and of itself. It just is, right? And how we interpret what's going on in our life. Absolutely. I do go, yeah, this didn't go well. the internet went out. I couldn't make this meeting. I couldn't do this. But then I stop and go, wait a minute. Let me list the things that are going well. And it's not these magnificent things. They're small things, right? There's so much that's gone well that allows me to be here to talk to you today.
Right.
There's stuff going well for you that allows you to be here to talk with me. That's awesome. We get to
It's
share
all in
that.
perception. It's
really
all
is.
in your perception. It's like, so one of I love, I don't even know, it's a theory. I don't know where I heard it or how long ago, but I've always found it fascinating that if you and I are standing on the Huntington Beach Pier,
Sure.
right, and we look back down the pier at the sand and the city and whatever else, or a painting for that matter.
Sure.
We're both looking at the exact same painting in a museum, and somebody says, Bryan, what do you see? I describe what I see. And they ask Zander, what do you see? And you describe something completely different, but we're looking at the exact
Absolutely.
same picture. It's all in your perception. And one thing that I've really struggled with, but I've gotten so much better at over the last year is realizing I don't talk about religion. I'm very spiritual. I believe in a power greater than myself, and I rely on that, becoming closer to something greater than myself. And I have understood or grown to understand that even those bad things, that 3%, or that 3%,
Yeah.
if you look at it from a perspective, good, bad, or indifferent, it is happening for me, not to me.
Yes.
Even the bad things or the things that you think are bad in your life right now, if you can stop for just a second and learn how to be resilient and adaptive in that 3%, and realize that, man, okay, it's like you pray to God and you ask for patience. You think God's just all of a sudden going to go, oh, okay, here's your patience.
Yeah.
No, he's going to put somebody in your life that's going to make you build patience. He's going to put or God, source, love, whatever you want to call it, puts these situations, people, places, and things in your life that help you become more patient.
Absolutely. One last thing that I want to say is I love the resilience, because we are all so much more resilient than we actually believe we are, but we get in situations and you don't have any other choice. You have to be resilient. So for example, when you were, because we're in California and we could say homeless or, domestically challenged, residentially underserved, because,
Domestically challenged, definitely there.
Exactly. You don't have a choice. You're like, I gotta find some food, and I gotta find someplace that I feel is relatively safe for me to sleep.
Sure.
You don't have any other option. That's what you have to do. So all of us are so much more resilient, and we have chances every day, every week, to prove our own resilience and remind ourselves that, yeah, we are so adaptive. Look, we would not be here as a species if we were not adaptive. We couldn't learn. We couldn't, overcome stuff. Like, what am I going to do? I got to figure this out. So,
Well, if you think about it, you started here at birth, right?
yeah,
And now you're here, you're 30, you're 40, you're 50, whatever. All of those things, good, bad, or indifferent, that have happened in your life, you have overcome and gotten to where you're at now. So I love doing my best to get people to understand that you are so much more powerful, resilient, and adaptive than you are letting yourself think that you are.
absolutely. Yeah, we look, meanest person in our life is ourself. And I tell people, stop. Don't be the meanest person in your life. You should be your number one cheerleader. You've got to believe in you, because if you don't believe in you, how's anyone else, right?
Right. Absolutely. It all starts within. As
Absolutely.
within, so without. As above, so below.
Yeah.
And the quicker I learned that, I don't do things for applause anymore. In all honesty, when I started doing this TikTok thing, there were so many people that just love what I do and love each other, and they love communicating with each other and making comments on these live streams. We have a lot of fun, and it got to the point where it was for me, and I loved the applause, and I loved the attention out of it. As I've grown in my sobriety and in my purpose, and what desire I have to just help people become a better version of themselves, I've realized that I don't want to do anything for applause or the notoriety. If one person hears my laughter and they laugh harder than they did that day, or they thought about their own life from a different perspective, like you were saying earlier in your book, if one person walks away with some knowledge that you were doing your best to put out there, if one person walks away with something from it, you feel like your job is done.
Look, I think we're all.
And that is a great feeling.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Bryan, you and I, I'm sure, could talk for literally hours here. This is great. I want to thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me, man.
How could people find you? How can they find your live stream? If they just want to reach out and have more Bryan, how can they do that?
Yeah, thank you. You go to crabcrewlife.com. I've also built a transformation. I don't like the word course, but it's a transformation.
Okay.
Right. And I've spent the last 6 months building this. I'm really proud of it. Or you can go to my TikTok, which is Bryan Blackmon, just BryanBlackmon. And I usually live stream. My schedule is kind of off right now. I'm kind of taking some time away from it, but I'll be back. But yeah, if you want to learn more about Bryan, just go to crabcrewlife.com and all my links and everything is there in my bio.
Awesome. Well, Bryan, I want to thank you so much. Dude, what an epic journey you've been on. I so appreciate you, coming on and sharing it and inspiring us all.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. I really appreciate it.
No problem. I want to remind everyone that if you're ready to begin your epic journey, go to epicbegins.com. And as always, remember, epic choices lead to the epic life that you want.
Get your gift copy of the award-winning book, Epic Begins with One Step Forward, at epicbegins.com. That's a wrap on this episode of Epic Begins with One Step Forward with your host, Zander Sprague, best-selling author, internationally acclaimed public speaker, and licensed professional clinical counselor. To make your next conference or event epic, send an email to Zander at zander@epicbegins.com. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. Remember, epic choices, epic life.